Welcome to this Tutor to You Sociology topic video on culture and identity, focusing on gender and socialization. When discussing gender and socialization, sociologists refer to the process through which individuals learn the norms and values of their specific gender, gender being the social characteristics that a society suggests determine that individual's gender identity. This differs from the biological fact of sex, whether an individual has an XX chromosome formation, XY chromosome formation, or an other combination of X and Y chromosomes. Over time, gender has become more diverse, with more traditional binary categories of male and female being added to as individuals come to define their own gender identity as either non-binary, transgender, gender fluid, gender neutral, or third gender, all coming into common usage when discussing gender. In this video, we're going to focus on the process of socialization into male and female gender identities, but it's important to consider that gender identities are far more diverse in contemporary society. One of the most often cited references when looking at how gender socialization shapes an individual's understanding of their own gender identity is put forward by Anne Oakley. Writing in the 1970s, Oakley identified four key processes in the socialization of children into specific gender roles: manipulation, canalization, verbal appellations, and activity exposure. These are predominantly performed by the main agent of primary socialization, the family, but can be reinforced through exposure to other socializing agents such as the education and media. The first process is manipulation. This refers to the different ways in which boys and girls are interacted with in their infant years. Parents will interact more actively with boys, playing physical games, whilst girls are perceived to be more delicate. This extends to the way in which children are dressed, with girls put in dresses and boys in more masculine attire. The second process is through what Oakley called canalization, steering children towards objects that are perceived to be gender appropriate. Boys are given cars and toy tools, whilst girls are given dolls and domestic toys like pots and pans. This reflects the roles that mothers and fathers may have in heterosexual relationships and reinforces gender identities from an early age. A third way is through verbal appellations. These reinforce gender identity, in part because they label boys and girls as such. Terms such as pretty girl and handsome boy are commonplace, whilst girls are subject to negative interactions such as she's not a lady if they do something that would be the norm for boys. The final process is gendered activities, and this includes reading and helping their mothers in the kitchen for girls, both perceived as passive activities, whilst boys are encouraged to engage with more active pursuits such as sport and playing outside. However, in contemporary society, this has changed, with more emphasis being placed on girls to be involved in active hobbies such as sports, a reflection of changing attitudes to gender socialization. A more dated, functionalist explanation of gender socialization is provided by Parsons. He suggested that children are socialized into the behaviors of their same-sex parent. For boys, this means being socialized into what Parsons called the instrumental role, one concerned with being a provider for the family through work and instilling discipline. Girls, on the other hand, would be socialized into the same behaviors as their mothers, or the expressive role. This included the care and nurturing of the family, and being more passive and offering emotional support to others in the family. However, this can be seen as outdated in contemporary society, particularly with a diverse range of family types. Furthermore, Parsons himself suggested that this form of socialization was problematic for boys, as they were often inadequately socialized as their father were absent for large parts of the day while at work, and therefore socialization into the instrumental role was often incomplete. Another explanation for the way males are socialized and how this may prove problematic is suggested by Raywin Connell. They argued that boys are often socialized into a form of hegemonic masculinity that puts an emphasis on being tough and aggressive. Furthermore, they were emotionally less available, and whilst this can be seen as a result of being passed down from fathers, often aspects of hegemonic masculinity are transmitted through agents of secondary socialization, for example, peers and the media. Media portrayals of action heroes encourage boys to be tough and not show vulnerability, which develops into a stereotypical version of masculinity. However, Connell did explore other forms of masculinity, suggesting that some males reject the hegemonic images and embrace more environmental concerns, valuing intellect over aggression. Furthermore, Connell examined the socialization of males into egalitarian homosexuality, adopting an equal partnership in homosexual relationships, whilst adopting the persona of a heterosexual male. A final impact on gender and socialization has been what Wilkinson calls a gender quake. The rise of second and subsequent waves of feminism has changed the way in which young girls, and to a lesser extent boys, have been socialized. Whilst girls have embraced masculine traits in their socialization and turned their focus from family and home to education and careers, boys have lagged behind. Boys' socialization has had less certain positive aspects, with some sociologists suggesting a failure to adapt to more gender-neutral socialization has caused a crisis of masculinity, one where boys are uncertain in what behaviours are socially acceptable and have limited prospects as a result. This is due to a combination of factors, including changes in education, employment, and in the media, all key agents of secondary socialization. In evaluating gender and socialization, it's important to consider the impacts of ethnicity and different cultural backgrounds. Not all cultures adhere to Western notions of greater equality between males and females, and more traditional, often religious cultures will see gender roles as being very distinct from one another. Furthermore, what we perceive as gender in the 21st century has been subject to great debate. As society accepts greater gender fluidity and a movement away from binary male and female notions of gender, this demonstrates greater freedom of choice and a decline in the influence of social institutions in society. Finally, gender might be formed at home, but the influence of secondary agents of socialization cannot be underestimated. Peers, media, and even education can reinforce gender stereotypes or help individuals to reject and replace stereotypical assumptions of the gender they were assigned, something we'll examine later when looking at gender identity. That concludes this Tutor to You Sociology topic video on culture and identity, focusing on gender and socialization. Thanks for watching.